all I have. Rick Miller will now introduce our speaker.
Good morning, everyone. I've got the greatest run-on sentence you're ever going to hear all day long and maybe all month. What do you do when you are selected as a TIM program associate pastor position in a large congregational church, only to find out after you arrive that the pandemic would put you face to face with a camera for online worship and activities? Doesn't that seem kind of long? This is how hundreds of people will get to see you, know you, and understand you. And this was the challenge of our speaker this morning. We are all on spiritual journeys, whether we know it or not, and Rushing Kimball has one to tell us. Experiencing Plymouth UCC is one of inclusion. Every weekly service begins with this quote: "No matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are always welcome here." During Advent, progressive Christians search for meaning through hope, joy, peace, and love. UCC members ask many questions. We agree to differ, we resolve to love, and we unite to serve. Please welcome our FFBC speaker for December 2022, Pastor Rushing Kimball.
Thank you, Rick. It is an honor to be here this morning. Usually, this is actually my first Friday breakfast club because 7 a.m. is really hard for a night owl. And so I am grateful. I set probably 5 alarms starting at 5 a.m. just to make sure I was up and ready to go. And I had a cup of coffee ready to make sure I could have the energy to walk out the door. But I wanted to tell you about 3 things: my faith story, my call story to ministry, but my coming out story as well, because I truly think that they are intertwined for me. And just to note more about who I am, another person who is watching, who is an important part of my life, my partner, Scott. He is an important part of this faith journey that I am on, and he is truly my partner in ministry in this journey that I am on and that we're on together. But going back to my early years, I was born and raised in Orlando. My family has always been a church-going family. My dad's side was Southern Baptist and still is die-hard Southern Baptist. My dad is on the journey. My dad is on the journey, but is finding that journey to open and affirming to inclusion with the theology that he knows, which leads to some interesting conundrums. My mom's side of the family has been Conservative Church of Christ. That's the denomination that does not use instruments in worship. It is a cappella singing. And so I grew up singing a cappella. And so I was in a chorus of 500 elementary schoolers at a private Christian school. And so that's when I guess that's the first inkling of when was Rushing gay and when did he know that he was gay, when he was in an a cappella choir with 500 elementary schoolers. But those two faith paths really set me on a journey. So I was obsessed with Jesus. I was obsessed, and I still am. I still love Jesus, but I would cry when we didn't go to church. I would cry when I didn't go to Sunday school. And over time, as I started getting older, as I started having more questions and my love of history started taking me down my own rabbit holes of finding out other different denominations and what they mean, what they like and how they worship, I started exploring. When I was in middle school, 8th grade, I went to a private school 30 miles away from home. I left all of my friends, started at a new school, and started reorienting my life to downtown Orlando. And when I was 14, I opened up the paper on a Saturday because, you know, every 14-year-old reads the paper. And I turned to the section where they used to advertise church times and church notices of come to our services. And I just picked one. And I couldn't drive at the time, so I got my grandmother to drive me to this church on a second Sunday in Advent, December 2009, and I just started going by myself. About a year later, I joined First United Methodist Church of Winter Park, just outside of Orlando, by myself as a 15-year-old, left my family church, and throughout high school, I started my own faith journey. And so it was truly at this United Methodist Church that I felt like I could ask questions. I could start to explore my own sexuality. I could start to explore what it means to have an affirming faith. And I could do it within the confines of a place that was open to more than just the literal interpretation of scripture. And I think that's where I fell in love with Methodism and with the United Methodist Church, because we are not a people that just believe that scripture is the only thing we can look to, but that we are influenced by tradition, reason, and experience. And that plays a big part in our understanding of our faith and the understanding of the world and how we interact with this ancient text. And so, yeah, I was asking a lot of questions in high school. And I remember coming out on the 5th of October, 2009, before first period history, and just realizing that this is a lot, that this was truly the beginning of a journey, and the remolding of a new way of looking at my faith, because I was still trying to wrestle with, well, this verse in Deuteronomy says this. Well, this verse here says, well, stone them. Well, like, how do you navigate that? Like, I had never really been, I was looking for seminary answers in high school, and I wasn't getting those seminary level answers yet. But my senior year of high school, in 2012, I met my campus pastor. He was a speaker at our high school youth retreat, and he said, "Come to UNF, come to the University of North Florida." And so I got involved at a campus ministry, and we were able to dive deeper into those questions together. And it's interesting, since 10 years have passed, we were on the same journey together. My campus pastor just recently came out as gay, and we were on that same journey together. All those years, the questions I was asking, he was asking, and we were processing that together. So in college, that is when I started thinking, okay, what do I want to do? What do I want to study? Faith is important to me, but what do I do in the meantime? So I studied international studies. I did a lot of politics, but it's interesting studying politics in North Florida with a lot of conservatives running for office. You know, you kind of find yourself in the middle of a campaign meeting with people making jokes about Rush Limbaugh and like, oh, Rush is here. Rush has endorsed us. I'm like, I need to get out of here. So after a few pushes and prods, you know, I made the decision to go to seminary, and I put all my eggs in one basket. I applied to Emory University, which is in Atlanta. They have a seminary, and I wanted a place where my faith could thrive, but we would take it seriously. And so I was wrestling back and forth with, am I United Methodist or am I Episcopalian? Where do I fit? I ended up staying United Methodist the whole way through, but not without going to some Episcopal churches that were truly fully there on being open and affirming. So it has always been complex for me. It is truly a complex journey, and I will say that it wasn't until my final year of seminary when I pulled the lever and actually started the ordination process in the United Methodist Church. After the special conference in 2019, that increased the penalties in the Book of Discipline for the officiating of same-sex weddings, for the ordination of LGBTQ people. It was after that conference, after being there in person, after bawling my eyes out and watching my family of faith attack me, that I said, okay, this isn't scaring me. It actually makes me want to be ordained more. It actually makes me want to be a part of this system even more, because if I say no, then that's what they want. They want me to say no. They want me to leave. That's what they have wanted all along. And it turns out now they're the ones leaving. They are the ones that are trying to take everything and burn down the house on the way out. And so all of that legislation that they passed in 2019 at General Conference to punish us monetarily on our way out, they now don't like it because it affects them monetarily. And they are on the record saying, if we were the ones leaving, this is how we would want to be treated. But they don't like it. And so 2019, 2020, it was a very different world. It was a very different church. And people were hesitant, and I was hesitant. And so I was scrolling through Facebook and found this offer for a residency at Plymouth Church in Des Moines, Iowa. I had never been to Iowa. I didn't even really know what was in Iowa. And so I asked around, was anybody else interested in this? And I applied, and lo and behold, I started in June 2020 and moved up here in the middle of the pandemic, or right at the beginning of it. Homemakers dropped off my furniture on the sidewalk, wouldn't go in. And so tried getting a very heavy couch and bed through a tiny apartment front door with no help. I don't want to go back to the beginning of the pandemic and trying to move during that, but I will not, I don't regret coming to Plymouth. And I know I got a question through email a week ago or so. So why is a United Methodist at a UCC church? It's because the UCC church is open and affirming. It's a place where, when I was struggling with the changing dynamics of the church, the United Methodist Church, when I was struggling with, is the church in Florida really ready for an openly gay person as their pastor? And is the leadership going to be behind me? I couldn't feel the room accurately at that time. So I said, okay, I need to go here for 2 or 3 years and truly get some ministry experience, grow in my own self-worth and confidence, and really practice ministry in a place where this part of me doesn't matter. It's all these other things that you have to offer that truly matters. And so I haven't, these 2.5 years, I haven't gotten questions about, so a gay pastor, what is that like? I haven't gotten any of those questions. My partner and I openly hold hands and go to church together and sit together, and it is no big deal. And I want that in my own spiritual home in the United Methodist Church, which is something that I am working towards. And that's partially why I haven't left a place that still feels like you just want to yell and scream at them, just get it together. So I'm planning on going back to Florida. I'm planning on being a United Methodist pastor in Florida, starting in June, hopefully, God willing. But it is a long journey. It is difficult, but I believe it's the right thing to do, because we need more open and affirming places for people to engage, to find community, to ask questions, to find answers, to have meaningful faith journeys. I truly believe that that Jesus has something to offer still, and that is a place to call home. That is love that passes all understanding, and that truly is what I think my ministry is, and why I'm committed to being in ministry in places that maybe aren't ready for me yet. If everyone just left, that was open and affirming, with the third largest denomination in the country, That's a lot of churches. That's a lot of churches in someone's neighborhoods, in someone's neighborhood. If everyone that was open and affirming left, a place nearby that would have an opportunity to be a place where a young gay kid or a person who identifies as queer wouldn't be able to come out, wouldn't be able to find refuge. And I truly want a church that can be a place where even if a person's family isn't a place of refuge for them, that the church can be. And so we're still on this journey. Plymouth has been open and affirming for going on 30 years. 30 years. That's I'm still finding churches that that just became open and affirming yesterday. And it is just amazing to me that for my whole life, 29 years, that Plymouth has been open and affirming. That's amazing. But where do we go from here? 30 years ago, it was open and affirming on gays and lesbians and bisexual people. And now we are really focusing on truly being an open and affirming church for people who identify as transgender, intersexual. And so the work is never finished. The ministry of inclusion is never finished, because if someone does not feel welcome in a space, and then we've got work to do. We've got work to do. So thank you. So I will take any of your questions. Yes.
Suggestion. I grew up Southern Baptist as well. My probably came very similar backgrounds with my father. There is a movie out called Southern Baptist Sissies. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It was put together by Leslie Jordan. Play he started, and I watched it with my husband, who's raised Catholic, and I could sing along with all the songs. I could recite the scriptures, and he was just like, "Oh my God, this is frightening."
So you said it was Southern Baptist Sissies? Okay. I was repeating that for the Zoom, but yes, it's. Oh, awesome. It's, I don't blame my dad. I don't give my dad a hard time. My aunt, who is diehard Southern Baptist, I think I'm the token exception to what is sinful, in air quotes, because she supported me in seminary, monetarily. And so here is a Southern Baptist woman who probably wouldn't let me be the pastor of her church, but supports me through seminary. And so I don't disparage them. I don't disparage my dad. My dad probably has no more than a 6th grade education. And the Bible is the only thing he knows cover to cover. And so within the framework that he has, with the knowledge that he has, I'm quite surprised at how far he has gotten on the journey of inclusion, because it's like Jenga. If you take too many of the bricks out, it's going to start collapsing. And so I had to stop telling him what I was learning in seminary, what I was learning in Old Testament class. You know, you mean Adam and Eve weren't real people? You mean the story of Moses and the numbers in the Bible were more of an exaggeration to make a point than actual numbers and facts and figures? I had to stop telling him things.
The TIM program has been around Plymouth for a long time. And over those years, there's been men, women, people of color, gays, lesbians, and others that have been in a position like yours as a TIM minister. I remember one gay man that said that he, a little younger than you are now, got pretty much ostracized from his church and had left and was not going to come back. But one day, we went to a UCC church. He sat in the back pew. And one of the first things they said was, no matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you'll always be welcome here. And he said he broke down and wept in the back pew of the church. And now he's a minister at Old North Church. I think that's an incredible, brave story. And I think you have a brave story. Could you tell people here about how you maybe came to be selected? Was it because you were gay, or besides being gay, or how that worked out at all?
I mean, I do think being gay is a superlative, but I don't think it's the reason why I got the job. I think I was confident in my story. I was confident in what I had to offer. The job process, the job hiring process was telling your story and telling what your aspirations are. And I, one, was seeking a place of refuge at a time when I felt like I didn't have a lot of options. And two, I felt called to church ministry. I love hospital ministry. I love hospital chaplaincy and in the action of being at a level 1 trauma center and all the chaos, but being with people in a congregation is truly where my heart is at. And so I think that's how I was selected for the job. So a long time ago, Plymouth, not a long time ago, but over 10 years ago, the Lilly Endowment approached a couple of churches and said, we will give you 10 years of funding to start a residency program for pastors fresh out of seminary. Plymouth is one of the few congregations left that still has that residency program going. And Plymouth actually funded it itself now. We are a self-sustaining program all the way through at least 2031. So we rotate through right now 3 residents who are right out of seminary, who are on the ordination path, who are called to church ministry. And so I'm truly grateful for the opportunity to be at a place that, proclaims every day, no matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, because you are always welcome here. Because without that, I wouldn't be here. Yeah.
You talk about you want to go back to the United Methodist Church and sort of fight that fight. Normally, pastors would not advise people to go back to their abuser, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Could you talk about that emotional journey?
Yeah. I have said that before. It's like, it is, it's weird to say, like, the place I call home is the place that also has given me a lot of heartache. I wouldn't feel confident going back if I didn't feel like the leadership in my conference in Florida didn't have my back. And I think they do now. In 2019, right out of the conference, the special conference, everyone was walking on eggshells. Everyone was kind of stalled. Everyone was afraid to move a muscle. So I didn't feel like the leadership had my back. I didn't want to go to the United Methodist Church in Florida to make myself available for an appointment, because in the United Methodist Church, I don't get to select where I go. I get appointed. I fill out a profile. It talks about my interests, where I would like to go, my aspirations, but the bishop and the cabinet, they make the decision on where I go. And so it is a behind the scenes conversation. It's like Match on Tinder. It's the church gets to see my profile. And if they like me, then I get to see theirs. And then that's it. And so I was afraid I was going to be stuck in the middle of rural Florida as a openly gay person fresh out of seminary. And it's like, there's no hiding the fact that I'm gay. If there's no hiding this at all. Like, I am going to be in the middle of the woods pastoring a group of people that will not like me. So I chose Plymouth. But I'm going back because my new bishop has said he will risk his job. He will risk disciplinary action to ordain queer people. He will risk disciplinary action to marry same-sex couples. And in the South, that's a bold statement. In the Western jurisdiction, in Colorado and in California, there's already an openly lesbian married bishop. 2 weeks ago, they elected a Black gay man who was partnered as a new bishop. So the Western jurisdiction of the United Methodist Church has been there and has done that. But the Southeast, the good old boys club of the church, is still on that journey. And so I wouldn't be going back if I didn't have a new bishop that said, you're worth fighting for. I wouldn't go back if my district superintendent had not said, you're worth fighting for.
I'm was at Plymouth back when we become open and firm. I was a new member there, and I'm so collection that supported that to the center. And the reason that Plymouth became open firmly wasn't really a big debate. It's because we had a person known to many people here, I'm sure, Earl Wills, head of me, and he was a very well respected person who came out to the church, and that's what started. And people knew somebody. I don't know if that could have been without Earl. And I think that in other churches also, they need to know one of theirs is gay. Then you start thinking of church. Do you feel like this book being gay can be a real positive thing in a church that's willing to find acceptance? They need somebody to look at and say, oh, this is okay.
Yeah, it's a weird place to be in, but a lot of the times these pockets of what I call traditionalism in churches, they're being fed the stereotypes, they're being fed the Fox News bullet points on what queer people do, or what the fear. They're being fed the fear. not just around queer people, but other minorities groups as well. And so I have found that just with the people that I knew from my home church, that being gay and coming out changes things, because for the first time it's personal. You're standing face to face to someone that is living a faithful life, and just so happens to identify as gay. So it does change things, but it doesn't always. General conference is an interesting meeting every 4 years. You have hundreds of languages spoken, hundreds of cultures, but you'll still meet a person from Kazakhstan, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, who still thinks it's a good idea to drown you and stone you. You'll still meet someone from Eastern Pennsylvania who has less than Christ-like words for you. But my friend Alice, from Florida, she is a retired Disney executive. She's the current lay leader of our conference, and she has been married to her partner for decades. And she enters the room. She enters every meeting and treats every single person who has said something negative like they are her best friend. And it does change things. Slowly. Their theology may be stuck in neutral, but it does change how they treat you.
Rushing, you mentioned that you at some time either paid attention or studied politics. I know that the UCP and the UMC are as far away from the Christian nationalist movement as you probably be. But I wonder if you see a response, some way for the good Christian to counter the bad faith Christianity that's being exercised in this country.
Can you repeat that just a little bit? Just a tad.
Well, the Christian nationalist movement.
Yes, Christian nationalism.
Is perhaps one of the biggest threats to our republic right now.
Yeah.
And so I think that we're a country filled with good Christians and bad Christians. And is there more that good Christians should be doing to counteract the bad faith Christianity in this country? I have no idea.
Okay.
What it is to do.
Is there more in the face of rising Christian nationalism? Is there more that Christians should be doing to counteract that rising Christian nationalist movement? Of course, there's always something that we should be doing. And I think that, at least in my experience, the United Methodist Church is really caught in that tension because we are the denomination where Bill and Hillary Clinton and George and Laura Bush and Jeff Sessions can sit on the same pew. And we are really caught in the middle of that. You know, and I think that's part of the reason why there is a split. It's, you know, Jesus and the American flag and the cross are all mixed together. But I do think one way that we can counteract that narrative is to truly have a better understanding of Scripture, what Scripture truly means, and how do you interpret it, and also just I think we also have to have a serious discussion on what this nation is. It's very, I think, other than white Protestant Christians who think this should be a Christian nation, other Christian groups don't have that strong of an opinion on that. So we need to have a serious discussion on what type of nation we want, and serious discussion on American flags in our sanctuaries. Because who are we going to church for? Are we going to church or any faith community to deepen our faith journey, to deepen our relationship with Jesus, or a prophet that we call special and sacred to us? Or are we coming to bolster our understanding of America being a Christian nation? And it's I mean, if we're truly going to talk about Christian nationalism, fine, but what type of Christian nation do you want? Because if I want a Christian nation, it's probably going to look very different from your Christian nation. My Christian nation is going to be open and affirming, hospitable to all. The words on the Statue of Liberty are actually going to mean something, and it's going to be honored. We're going to take care of the widow and the orphan. We're going to find a home for the stranger. We're going to feed people. We're going to take care of you no matter who you are or where you come from. And so I don't think people really understand what it means to have a Christian nation. They may not like the outcome.